and my mom was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 27. So here I am, taken out premature.
Oh,
And
wait. Hang on. They removed you from
2 months early, and this is way back. I'm 43 years old, so this is back in 1980. They rushed me to Yale New Haven Hospital. My mom was pregnant, very sick, and they took me out immediately.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast. From a very early age, we're taught that our choices define us. Hanging out with the wrong group of friends will inevitably get you into trouble. Don't work hard in school, and you'll fail or get left back. The choices of youth rarely have any consequences, and if they do, they're usually mild. As we grow older, the results and responsibilities of our choices grow exponentially. By the time we're adults, we are prepared for full accountability. Not every choice you make in life is going to be soundly thought out. Some will be rash and carry severe penalties. The true mark of a human being is that we own all of our choices, both the good and the bad. I'm Kevin Donaldson here with Mike Failace, and on this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we welcome Mike Panus to discuss the suffering of drunk driving. Mike's decision-making, younger, is a little off, but
yeah, we've all been there.
We've all been there. Unfortunately, has carried with it some very serious consequences. And thank you so much for coming in,
Kevin. It's such an honor to be here. I'm still in awe, and it's really
it's funny. It gave me like shot out of a cannon today.
No, it's great, but it's nice. It's nice because we get that excited about every single show. All right, even when the storyline isn't close to our heart, we're still excited to hear what somebody has to say, and it's nice to have that reciprocated.
There's multiple reasons why the energy is kind of so high right now. It's been a while.
Cocaine? No.
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, I don't even do any drugs, and it's like this every day. But no, it's.
My father always said, I don't like cocaine. I just like the smell of it.
But no, I'm just really excited to be here. Made a little trip down here from Connecticut, and can't thank you enough, Kevin and Mike.
Thanks for coming in. Before we get into anything, let's give a shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody, but we do trust Toyota of Hackensack. So if you're looking for a car, go to toyotahackensack.com. Let them find you a car. So Mike, I've done a lot of research about you, my man.
Oh boy, is that so?
All you got to do is put his name in Google, and it's like pages.
Or as your dad would say, the Google.
The Google.
The Google. Mike, each week we take a question from our audience, and I pulled this one specifically for you, and it's from Terrence N. It says, how can someone take responsibility for their own bad behavior? You're somebody who through my research, has taken ultimate responsibility for their bad behavior, but if you were to give that advice to somebody else, what kind of suggestion would you give them?
The first thing that comes to mind is just taking ownership of whatever decision that you had made that was a poor decision. Not blaming anyone else, just taking ownership. That's how I think is the best way to take responsibility for any bad decision that you make.
Mike, what do you think?
It really goes back to what was that show back in the day when you were growing up, Beretta, I think it was. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time.
From a guy who ultimately killed his wife. It's kind of odd.
But that's really it. Like you said, you got to own up to it. And if you're going to do something, everything has consequences, whether it be a good deed or something bad. Everything has consequences. You got to own up.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the decision that I made, it was just like repeated behavior. You just as humans, you just become like trained behavior, just like kind of brushing teeth every night, putting your sneak. And it's like back in the day when we were younger, before Uber and before Lyft and all that stuff, jumping in the car, having a few beers.
They say you're knocking on a devil's door long enough, someone's bound to answer.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Quick story about that. Everybody used to think cops are untouchable from drunk driving. And there was a time when we were. And I know exactly when it changed, because I just had this discussion with somebody. There was a state trooper who got into an accident at a Dunkin' Donuts, and he hit somebody and hurt somebody. And at that point, if it's your job or my job, guess which one's winning?
Yeah.
I'll protect you as much as I can, but I cannot protect you if it's going to jeopardize my job.
Yeah.
And that's when everything changed.
Yeah.
In this area, anyway.
Yeah.
So for me, everybody has an excuse. All right. Yeah. Excuses are like assholes. Everybody's got one.
Yep.
However, there's one common factor in all those bad decisions that people overlook, and that's you were involved. Not you specifically, but whoever the bad behavior is coming from. So if you're the common denominator, chances are you're the cause of your own bad behavior.
Yeah.
You know, and there's plenty of excuses why people do what they do, and there are reasons for it, but ultimately it's up to you to fix it.
Yeah.
So Terrence, thank you so much for sending that one, and keep sending in your questions, and we will try to get them on the air.
You know, it's funny. My father always told me you're judged by who you hang out with.
Yeah,
So if you're hanging out with a group that's always getting in trouble, you're always going to get in trouble too.
That is so true. I was just thinking about that the other day. You know, when you're growing up, especially me, I'm from a small town. I live in a very small town, and you become friends with older guys. You know, like I played football.
It's a cool thing to do.
Yeah. So it was just like that was the crowd that you follow. You completely, you know, molds you into that as well. You know.
Yeah, you got with us, with Mike and I, it's, you know, you hung around with the football players. So if the football players were troublemakers, guess what you were? You were a troublemaker.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think I was the head troublemaker.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, well, but, you know, you hang around with dogs long enough, you get fleas.
Yeah.
So you traveled a long way. How far was your drive?
Oh, I didn't look exactly how many miles, but it was almost 3 hours. Yeah, it was like 100 and something miles maybe. But
Well, you had a nice traveling companion, which is very nice. You bring your entourage into the studio.
absolutely, I was very lucky to have Tiffany with me today.
But
So,
the thing is, do you listen to the same type of music? Because I hate long trips with someone who, because my ex-wife used to be like a big disco head. We'd be fighting over the radio stations.
music's kind of one of our things. We enjoy some of the same music. So,
Taylor Swift.
I got T Swift. But no, that's not what I was jamming out to. My daughter loves Taylor Swift,
Of
so
course.
I'll jam out to that on the way into school. But no, Tiffany and I, we listen to a lot of the same music. You know, she's a little bit more into country than me. I'm not really. That's not really my genre. But
Country's that one genre of, and I like all genres of music. I do. I really like all genres of music except country.
there's two. There's two that I don't really like heavy metal, like screaming, like people jumping up and down, like
That's
going
me. Stage diving, slam dance, and all that stuff. Yeah.
I hate my parents.
Yeah, like that gets my blood pressure going a little bit too high, and country like sucks the life out of me sometimes. You know, just like I need some energy and beats, and I'm good.
There's one country musician that I like, and he's really not a country musician, and that's Darius Rucker. He's not really even a country.
Yeah.
He's Hootie.
He's Hootie.
He's a Hootie. He's not a country. Come on.
Shut up, Darius. You're Hootie.
You're Hootie.
So yeah, we had a good drive though, jamming out.
Good.
So you've traveled all this way. I want you to tell our audience. Listen, we've spoken enough where I feel like I know you even before I met you face to face. But I want you to tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Oh boy, where do I begin? Anyways, Kevin and Mike, I just want to thank you and thank you again. I'm going to get into a little bit about my background. My story starts very early. My dad and mom, you know, had my sister. She was like a year old, and my mom was pregnant with me 6 months or so, and she got ill, and they rushed her to the hospital, and my mom was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 27. So here I am, you know, taken out premature. And
wait, hang on. They removed you from
2 months, 2 months early, and this is way back. I'm 43 years old, so this is back in 1980. You know, they rushed me to Yale New Haven Hospital. My mom was pregnant, very sick, and they took me out immediately, and she lost her life 30 days after I was taken out.
Wow.
So
your father had to be
my dad struggled a lot, you know, left with me a premature baby and my sister a year old. And my dad I don't know if he's ever completely recovered from that. And so fast forward, my stepmom comes into the picture when I was about 2 years old. And my dad, he's a hardworking carpenter, you know, construction union worker, left with, you know, premature baby and my sister, and did whatever he could for his family.
Preemies are a lot of work, too. You know, I mean, my son was born 6.5 weeks premature, and he had undiagnosed reflux for 6 months. So he was crying because he was hungry. 5 minutes later, he was crying because of reflux.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't really recall how difficult it was, but
it wasn't hard for you.
Yeah, yeah. Feed me, please.
Feed me,
But your
feed me,
dad,
and wipe my ass.
you know, traditional male roles are you go out and the men go out and earn a living, and The women, they're better caregivers to babies than we are. It's just it's a better fit for them because they're better at than us.
Kevin, I'm glad you brought that up. That point exactly has impacted my life completely up until like this current moment of not having that mom, that bond when I was a child.
Absolutely.
Like I wasn't breastfed, I wasn't held, I wasn't cared for by like my mom, and it has impacted my life so dramatically that I didn't really realize it until recently, and just I feel like neglected at times, especially even with some of my relationships, my personal relationships. I freeze and feel neglected very easily.
I mean, how even like growing up and going to school and everything, you see the moms like dropping their kids off and everything, and you had to feel like
it's so I get into it a little bit. This is my book over here. I might refer to it for
Live with Honor.
Live with Honor.
That's on Amazon, right?
Yeah, turning tragedy into triumph. Live with Honor, turning tragedy into triumph. It's on Amazon. My dad met my mom when I was so young, and my stepmom that came into the picture, that's who I thought my mom was. She had a son from her previous marriage. She had a son young in age, and my brother came into the family. So it was my brother and my sister and myself. So we were, a family of three, and my mom and dad never had a kid together. So she brought her son into it, my brother.
Your stepmom.
My stepmom. I always refer to her as my mom because that's all I don't know. Like she raised me.
That's the only way we're going to be able to separate the two right now.
Yeah.
So I understand what
I'll
you're saying.
say biological mom. Like I kind of refer to it as my biological mom.
Because it doesn't, parents don't have to be your biological parents.
Yeah. So my mom came in at such a early age, and that's all I knew. I thought that was my mom. And I like I said, I brought up in my book when I found out she was going to adopt my sister and I. She wanted to adopt us, so they had to bring in someone from the state to come witness our family before they could sign off on the adoption. So they told me that someone was coming, and I'm like, why are they coming? I'm a very inquisitive person and always have to ask questions. And that's when I realized that wasn't my biological mom.
How old were you at that point?
I was in elementary school. I believe I was in second or third grade. And I talk about it. My best friend, I go to elementary school and I'm like, my mom's dead. And like, here I am, a second grade or third grade, trying to wrap my mind around
trying to process that whole thing.
Yeah. Like this woman that's been in my life for how many years now is not my mom. And like, trying to.
Well, think about a reverse. And I don't know if this ever occurred to you. Think about your dad living with that, saying, at some point I got to tell this kid.
Yeah, that's a question. That's a good question, Kevin.
But at what age do you actually tell a kid that? Second grade, what are you, 7, 8 years old, maybe?
Yeah. About 8 years old. I was 7. I remember I went to recess and I started crying. I told my best friend, we're still best friends to this day since kindergarten, and told him, I was like, my mom's dead. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
And, because that's
she just dropped you off this morning. What happened?
Yeah. That's what he knew. That's my mom, so anyways, it's impacted my life greatly. As I've grown up, now I'm a parent to my daughter, Bella, who's 8 years old, just missing my biological mom, and almost like the thought of what my life would have been if my mom didn't pass away. It's always has that question mark in the back of my mind. But
you're thinking that, and this is not a dig against your biological mother, but you're thinking that things would have been really good. It could have gone the other way. It can always get worse.
Just that the question of, the unknown.
Yeah.
The unknown. Who knows?
The what ifs.
Yeah. So that's always been there for quite a while now. So I grew up with my stepmom, as I call my mom.
Once you found out that she was not your biological mother, did it change your attitude towards her?
No, not at all. That was my mom. My mom and dad worked their asses off for their children. I love sports. I love fishing. I always had, new fishing pole, hunting, new rifle, always had the best clothes that we could, like my mom would have to hide the receipts from my dad. I'd have new Michael Jordans, like $100. This is back, and like my
Yeah, but
dad.
they were Jordan 1s.
Yeah.
That was back in the day.
He would
Now you
like,
can't buy the laces for under $100.
yeah. So yeah, this is going way back, and but yeah, they worked very hard and gave us the best life possible. So no, that's all I knew was my mom.
Well, when the adoption, when you finally found out that it wasn't your mother, did she come in and just have a conversation with you, or just it was one of those things like, yeah, this is the way it is? Ready to go?
Kevin, I can't really recall the specifics of that, but I do recall, it being very just very shocking, shocking to me as a young kid.
But I mean, you think about it. I mean, it sucks no matter what. But you said your mom came down with cancer when she was pregnant.
Yeah.
Right. What if she was still around and wound up coming down with cancer when you were like 12 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, would that have been more? I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Mike, I love that point because there's acceptance of what happens in life is a huge part of anything that we go through on a daily basis, how big or how small. And you can't be like you can't have regrets or anything, and that kind of like brings that topic up to me. It could have been more traumatic if it was later or whatever. So I have accepted the fact that I lost my mom at an early age, and I just do the best I can to make her proud.
So normal childhood, if you had to pick out something that, maybe there were some ripple effects that when you found out that your mother wasn't your biological mother, did it rear its head in any ways?